In light of this, where does Kamala get the idea that the border is secure?
That's the most outrageous thing I believe I've heard in a long, long time. For her to sit there and say that our border is secure when we've had, 17 consecutive months of over 150,000 illegals coming across, 66 people on the terrorist watch list caught, hundreds and hundreds of thousands coming in, actually almost 4 million in the last year. And then we've had 100,000 plus overdose deaths because of because of fentanyl and other drugs that are just pouring across the border. And quite frankly, the cartels are the ones that are in charge. The cartels could say, yes, our border is secure for them. This Biden administration has ignored over and over again the health and safety of American citizens. They put illegal aliens, drug runners, sex traffickers, criminals, and terrorists above Americans, and especially those who are veterans and are homeless. I tell you, Kara, I get angry every time I think about this administration. And let me tell you something else too. We still have a clear and present danger from radical Islamic terrorism. And they're taking advantage of our open borders right and left. And we've had, and you mentioned it at the very beginning about the loopholes of people who are visa overstayers. 7 of these 9/11 terrorists were visa overstayers. And we've done nothing. Have we learned nothing from the 9/11 Commission? The Biden administration has thrown out the window everything that had been put into place by the Trump administration, and many of the things that were put in place or actually advised for us to do by the 9/11 Commission, such as biometric tracking. Well, they're not doing anything. They've got millions of people that are running around this country, potentially going to murder again. Terrorist activity is happening. Cells are out there. And have we learned nothing from 9/11, which was just the anniversary, 21st anniversary was just yesterday? Kara, I am greatly apprehensive about the future. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we're going to be hit again by terrorists because of the Biden administration's open border policies. It is very, very sobering and alarming.
That it is, and I remember, I think it was about 6 months or so after the 9/11 terror attacks that one of the agencies up there in D.C. actually had verified some of the hijackers, some of their immigration information, and kind of mailed it out. And this was happening 6 months after the terror attacks. And so obviously vetting 20 years ago wasn't great. Vetting today isn't great. And so you're exactly right. It leaves us very, very vulnerable. And that's a very scary place to be in. And the blood keeps pouring, unfortunately, out here in California. That man who was sentenced now 15 to life, he had been deported twice before, was supposed to have been deported a third time in 2015 after he was convicted of drunk driving. And then, of course, you know how California is. He's allowed to stay, a slap on the wrist. Now, unfortunately, a 6-year-old girl has passed away and her family now is left to mourn. Do you find it interesting that in Kamala's interview on Sunday, Chuck Todd kind of pushed back a little bit, just a little bit? She kind of seemed taken aback. But do you find it interesting that before midterms, she's at least pretending to talk tough about the border? Of course, not doing anything about it, doing the exact opposite, but she's at least trying to pretend to voters out there saying, the border, don't worry, it's secure, it's secure. Do you find that kind of interesting? Because you and I, when we talk about that, we're called racist for or xenophobic. And now it seems Democrats are at least trying to pretend to use those talking points.
It's gaslighting. It's blowing smoke on the American people. She's supposed to be the border czar. She's never been down there for a serious visit. I think she got close to the border at one point in time. It is incredible to think that this is Biden's border czar, and she is just really, she said really nothing different from Secretary Mayorkas, who also said the border was had operational control and that it was secure. But for our vice president, the supposed border czar, to say that our border is secure with millions of illegal aliens pouring across, and the terrorism, the drugs, the human trafficking, the sex slavery that is happening, the crime wave that this has caused with the sanctuary cities that you mentioned, Kara. And on top of that, we've got Democrat DAs and state judges around the country, even here in Texas, even in the one of the great cities of our country, Houston, Texas, which I represent part of. We've got people who are running around on bail who've murdered people and then only to return and murder others again. So you have an open border, you've got sanctuary city policies, and you have really the old common USA American criminals that have just been unleashed. They're totally empowered to go out and murder and commit mayhem all across this country. And I tell you, the American voter, the American people need to ask themselves a question: am I safer? Am I more prosperous? Am I doing better now that Joe Biden and the Democrats are in the White House, in control of our House, and in control of our Senate? If anybody answers in the affirmative to that, they need to go get their heads checked, because they're fooling themselves, or they're believing this gaslighting nonsense that Vice President Harris is trying to blow on us when she made that ridiculous statement.
Well,